country, and for several years I was, the people don't read in English in that country, and I was kind of a bit lost, like, who would read my stuff? Then I was in Iowa, and there are several writers that year who write in their English as a second language, and that was very encouraging. And then in 2008, the first Hong Kong, yes, I was invited to attend the Asia Pacific Writers in Hong Kong, and there I realized there's a whole lot of writers in this region, and I can publish my work and I can find readers, and I'm really happy to have my book published in Australia, Sydney, and my publisher Michael Vernon is not here today, but he does a wonderful job. He goes really far. To publish his poets. I'm really proud to be one of the first prose writer from Vagabond. Okay, so I'm going to read two stories today. Many of you have heard the story, but you have to bear it. Okay, Squirrel Heaven. I've decided the reason why I've never seen a dead squirrel is that squirrels have a secret garden where they die, which, like a black hole, would instantaneously swoosh them into the squirrel heaven, where nuts and pizza crusts are abundant. But one day, I finally come across a dead squirrel curled up in the grass at the foot of an oak tree near the Field Museum. The grass is a round patch, as though it has grown just to accommodate this squirrel's death. The squirrel has a dead face, a half-open eye, a dusty nozzle, and deteriorating gums, but the fur is still clean and the body undamaged. I take out my handkerchief, look around to see if anyone is watching, spread it next to the squirrel, brush the dirt off its face with a wisp of soft grass, scoop the body, and wrap it up in the cloth, noting its diagonal edges. I do not put the wrap in my bag. I clutch the knots and carry it home like a purse heavy with silver coins. The rule is not to eat animal meat. The rule is not to kill. So when we encounter a dead doe on the road, we express our gratitude to earth and eat it. We must eat it so that life is not wasted. When we stumble upon a dead pigeon in the park, we thank heaven and pluck it. Thus, I've eaten rabbits, weasels, and raccoons, many birds whose names I don't know. But I've never eaten a squirrel because I haven't set eyes on a dead squirrel before. There were so many squirrels around, all of them alive, fat and fast and alive everywhere. I must confess that when we go without meat for weeks, I start dreaming about the sweet tenderness of squirrel flesh. So many times my mouth has watered at the sight of those November fat squirrels' buttocks, but squirrels never came to us dead until I found one near the Field Museum. When I tell my mother I've found a dead squirrel, she immediately gets herself busy. She sends my brother off for acorns. My father cuts its tail off as a keepsake and starts skinning and gutting the creature. I light some incense and ring the bell. When my brother comes back with a handful of acorns, we sit at the table together and crush their shells. The acorns are wrapped tightly in a piece of tea towel, and I hold onto the right tail of the towel, securing the wrap on a phone book for my brother to thump the nuts with the kitchen mallet. We both remain quiet, concentrating so as not to smash my fingers. Then the acorns are smeared with the fresh spices my mother has just ground in the mortar and stuffed into the squirrel's now hairless belly. While we wait sitting at the table in front of the oven, we tell our squirrel stories to each other, occasionally ringing the bell. And it turns out it is the first time for any of us to have dead squirrel, except for my mother, who, as a child, grabbed a dead squirrel when she stuck her hand into a tree hole. It was early spring, my mother recalls, and the squirrel was still lukewarm, but its heart had stopped beating. It was tiny, skinny squirrel. She remembers her mother put so many acorns in its hungry belly it almost burst in the oven. I did once see a squirrel come close to death. This squirrel wanted to cross Belmont Street, darting underneath an SUV, and was nearly run over. The rear tire caught the tail fur, and the creature tumbled round and round in front of the running tire. I was the only pedestrian next to the car. I was ready to scream, my hands pressing against my face. No, not in front of my eyes. I wouldn't be able to swallow the consequences. The squirrel rolled 3 times and finally dashed back to my side of the street, looking cute and stupid like any squirrel, like nothing had happened, and climbed up an oak tree. That is the squirrel story I contribute. We each take a limb or the neck and share the trunk together. I am surprised. It tastes exactly the way I imagined it would taste. But I did not imagine the small bones would be crunchy and edible. The acorns are hardest to finish, bitter, hard, and dry. We masticate without a word. Outside the window, my eyes search for live squirrels. I dream of fluffy tails fast funambulating on the telephone wires in the backyard, but I see none. What if an apprehension grows as I chew on? What if this is the beginning of the end? The beginning of an epidemic, for instance? What if we see no more live squirrels dashing around, sticking out their tails from dumpsters? What if all the squirrels we are going to come across from now on will be dead squirrels because I discovered the secret garden where they gather to die? A simple consequence. We will never worry about our food. We will eat nothing but squirrel for the rest of our lives. We will be overloaded with protein, so our piss will smell strange. My brother and I will have to gather acorns every day. Someday my fingers will get smashed. And what if we cannot finish all the dead squirrels we find? It's been a while since we gave up our summer road trips. We just couldn't finish a dozen roadkills every day. Now we take planes and trains. The scriptures do not tell us what to do with surplus dead animals. Heaven has never rained dead squirrels upon us. I will bury the squirrel's skull under the round patch of grass tomorrow. In the past, the rule applied to people too. The rule was universal. The scriptures value every form of life. When you set eyes on a dead grandmother, you did not waste her life. But as we moved to cities, it became difficult not to waste our dead, and the elders decided to make an exception. Consequently, I've seen a dead grandmother, but never eaten one. Now, if we keep finding too many dead squirrels, we may have to give up eating squirrels altogether, making it an exception. Then the municipal hygiene office will organize regular cleanups of the squirrel corpses that perpetually materialize. Squirrel collection trucks will thread streets and alleys, chiming the squirrel collection music. Each truck will be equipped with a dustpan and motorized broom. At stops, its rear lid will open up, producing the steel dustpan as wide as the truck itself on the ground, and the broom, or more of a huge deck brush resembling a balloon mustache, will come down to rake up the squirrel corpses, now a bunch of dusty fur balls, tossed up with cigarette stubs and candy wrappers and crumpled pages of tabloid newspapers. When the lid flips open again and the dustpan heavy with carcass meat lifts, pedestrians will get the glimpse of the rodential purgatory flame where the waste is tossed. In a flash, the lid will shut tightly before we actually see the fur catching fire, and off the truck will go to the next collection spot, resuming the merry music. The dirge to send the innocent off to heaven, and spewing crisp fumes into the air from its smokestack. The odor will tempt the heathen to grill meat for dinner, causing more lives to be wasted at the meat factories. We will have to witness squirrel lives and all sorts of other lives getting wasted. My heart throbs at the idea. It just doesn't sound right. We might have to move to a high-rise apartment downtown so as not to set eyes on the carcasses covering earth, but then that means the end of accidental meat consumption. We will all live meatless until a clueless bird jumbles itself in the ventilation system, which may or may not happen once in several years. The elders will prohibit us to play on the ground, so I will have to hang around with kids from the high-rise who are not the most sympathetic kind of people to begin with. We will have to take a special masked vehicle to go to school. We will have to scurry down our way whenever on the ground, averting our eyes from the truth, meaning that we too become hypocrites like the heathens. Some people who've been making fun of us will ridicule us even more as we run down the street, and we will have to leave the city altogether someday.